urgent call for the duty inspector.
The pressure is definitely on a bit from last year, but the scripts are there to take it to the next level.
Deputy Chief Constable Dryden.
Sir, this is D.I. Lindsay Denton.
The thing that I loved was that my 88-year-old mum and teenagers were getting it as well, and it just felt like really loved as a show.
Wallace the Denton is straight on here, ma'am.
I was really hoping we'd get a second series, and I was quite confident that we would, just because, it's best to be confident. But I don't think I expected it to get the ratings it got.
There was a sort of talk about factor around the show. I remember reading a completely unconnected column in the Evening Standard, where suddenly Kate Fleming's character was referred to as a kind of reference point for the article. And it's when you start to spill over into the general cultural conversation that I think you know that a show has really made an impact.
Because Series 1 had done so well, which was a surprise to me as much as it was to anyone, I think, you then think, well, those things are working, and it's more a case of fine-tuning them, pushing the boundaries a little bit, rather than feeling that you're still searching for the essential heart of the show.
We've been assigned to investigate the possibility that a police officer or officers tipped somebody off.
The casting is a big part of it. I think, myself and Martin and Craig are kind of known as your indie films, TV characters, and we haven't really been seen to play those kind of professional roles before. And I thought that was really interesting, and obviously Neil Morrissey and Lenny James in the last series just blew everybody away.
I was never bent. You know that, don't you?
Well, I was scared I wasn't going to see Line of Duty, because I thought that Gates with Lenny was such a key part of Line of Duty, and I was even I was worried that I wasn't going to see it. Then when I started reading the first 5 minutes, I thought, okay, this is a new story starting, and Lindsay takes over from the beginning, and we're just with her and with her story, and then AC-12 come in and the old gang arrive back in to investigate, and it feels like a reinvention, but it's still the same show, which is fantastic.
When you first read something before you approach the character, you look at it from a kind of spectator's point of view, and I was just gripped by it. It really, you can't predict where it's going to go, but once you're in it, that's it. You're in it from beginning to the end. Really, you just want to know exactly who's involved with who and how. Who are they really guilty? Can you trust them, or what? You're questioning all the time.
I shouldn't have even been on duty that night. I'd do anything not to have been there, not to have picked up that call, because for all I know, it's going to take away the one good thing in my life, and that is being a police officer.
Everyone around the time of the show was asking us, how on earth are you going to follow Lenny? How on earth is an actor going to walk in Lenny's shoes? And it seemed a no-brainer to us that you just go in the other direction, you cast a female character.
I read it and just thought, this is one of the most amazing parts I've ever read. And I thought, there's not a hope in hell. of me playing Lindsay.
Because Keely's quite a well-known actress and for want of a better expression, a star, she has a kind of magnetism that you wouldn't necessarily get from an unknown. But on top of that, because the audience feels that they know her from other shows, it's an opportunity to subvert that. And so Keely was playing a character who outwardly is much less glamorous and has a much less glamorous life than maybe some characters that she's previously been associated with.
I did the audition and I read sort of several scenes for them, not knowing whether she was guilty or not, which was sort of great because you just don't play anything. You know, you don't play guilt, and you don't subconsciously even play anything.
Motive. I had none. Why on earth would I want to kill fellow officers? Opportunity. I had none. I only found out about the witness in a phone call 1 hour before the ambush. Means. I had none.
This time around, I wanted the story to be more of a whodunit. In Series 1, the audience got an insight into what Lenny James's character was doing before the investigators did. Whereas in this one, although I wanted the audience to have that same kind of relationship with Keeley Hawes' character, I also wanted to keep them guessing about whether she was innocent or guilty.
One of the strengths of the piece is that it sticks very closely to correct police procedure, and it deals with very difficult grey areas of what's right and wrong, and it deals with very difficult decisions audience-wise as to who you're going to like and who you're going to dislike, and you know, that's kind of like real life.
I didn't detect any pressing reason for keeping up appearances.
I'm no boss.
And picking up the bill. That really took the price.
You get to see some of the top people in their personal lives a bit more. So you get to see how not only does the police force screwed up on the inside with fairly screwed up people in quite high positions, but you get to see why they're screwed up, because you get to see outside of the workplace and what's going on in their actual homes.
An audience always wants to know more about returning characters, and you certainly get more of an insight as to, you know, you get that Steve's a bit of a ladies' man, Hastings obviously in a lot of financial trouble, Kate's, you know, not this perfect character that we thought she was, and she's, you know, potentially ruining her family life. And you know, at the end of Series 1 we kind of established that she's just this really nice normal copper that goes home at night to her son, and she's got kind of nice little house, and all seems pretty perfect, and it's not.
None of them are particularly likeable characters as far as I'm concerned. You know, they do the job within the police force that nobody wants, you know. That department don't get invited to the Christmas parties. You know, they're not the ones that you want to hang out with.
The guilt seems to shift from character to character, so you're not sure that you might be loving someone for the first 3 hours and then suddenly go, oh my God, he's a shit. And that's what's special about it this time. And you do have a bit more empathy with the kind of messes that people are in and the high pressure of work that they've got, because you can see how that affects their personal life.
What do you want?
I couldn't worry with Lindsay about trying to make her likeable or trying to, you know, it's not about that. It's about whether or not you want to fight her corner or not.
She's so clever and so just really twisted, and you never know quite, even to the very end you don't know what side she's on, and then the tables get turned very quickly and sort of we're on the back foot as she starts sort of exposing everything we've done wrong, you know, and the bloodlines between right and wrong for a cop. So she's sort of, you know, putting us under the spotlight a bit. So it's a lot of to and fro going on.
How'd you get these? For the tape, the images show Dear Sarnett returning to staff nurse Tyndall's home, and he's later photographed in an upstairs bedroom with her.
It's a lot like Lindsay's playing with him, but he's playing with her too, ultimately. So it's just a cat and mouse with them all.
Might help if you give me the gen on your neighbour.
She's lying.
If you're worried about a charge, though, I could say I was there just to back up your version of events.
I'll pretend I didn't hear that.
As vulnerable as Lindsay is, she's a very, very strong, intelligent character. And I think Kate begins to discover that more and more throughout the show, and then has to change tactic.
Mum, is this a good idea? What with AC12's investigation into the ambush?
Do I look like I was born yesterday?
Lindsay is fully aware of what Kate is up to and what she's all about and where she's from and what she's doing. And there's a lot of game playing with the both of them.
People have underestimated me my whole life.
She puts Kate in her place, but, you know, we know how it ends, so...
This is just a brilliant relationship, you know, where you're never quite sure who's getting the upper hand, and then later on we have lots of scenes of them both in the prison, on the prison set. That's one of the nicest relationships to play. You know, it's really good fun.
Now, if this was your case, would you write those off as coincidences?
No.
No. So, one way or another, you're involved.
It's nice because you're working with a piece of glass right in between you as well, which is just a massive restriction. So it just adds a little bit more, and she's obviously vulnerable, but still got all this strength because she's in the position she's in.
We had an agreement about that.
And she has something on Kate, and just all the layers just made that really fun to play.
You right? Get a drink.
No, I better not have any more. Have mine.
What's wrong?
We were quite conscious and we were quite happy about it, like to them just to be partners, you know, and just to be mates really.
Maybe there are some people out there who always tell the truth and want to always lie. The rest of us choose our moments. This is one of them.
It's kind of nice just to see how, you know, people's personal lives can be so overwhelmed by the job they're in. And I think we've really tried to bring that through this year. No, we're just pals.
What's going on?
I just wanted to see my son.
You will, all right? Just not in the middle of the night.
Oh, I haven't got anywhere else to go.
There's a scene where she stays at his house, and you know that it's not a sexual thing. It's purely these two are very good friends and they're very good work colleagues. You know, and they're genuinely wanting to look after one another.
Vicky's an absolute diamond. You know, I love her to bits. She's became one of my really close friends. I think we're a great team together. We bounce off each other. We work very similarly, and we've got the same stupid sense of humour. So we just sort of annoy everybody on set and have a laugh in our own wee world at times. But I find it a lot easier again when she's around, and like Adrian and stuff. You know, again, we're a good team.
I found this red ball that it was a heart. I think it was in the shape of a heart, but it just ended up being one of the things. Probably shouldn't say this, but just get a dash around the office. Nothing ever got broke, but yeah, we just play catch. My notebook, which looks like it's got really interesting notes, very policey notes, is just like noughts and crosses and whatever else keeps us going.
Oh, what's that tosser doing here?
Bugger to farm,
He kind of really enjoys playing a character who's so duplicitous, and he plays it so well. You know, I mean, he's required to be one of the heroes, like an acting, serving, driving member of the anti-corruption task force, while at the same time having a whole other life that he's got to keep secret. It was great material to play with.
It's not my fault you were kept out of the loop, but really, around the office, you ought to be calling me sir.
Craig's like a really close pal of mine as well, so it was just great having him back. But I think from people who have watched it last year, who knows Cotton's shady other side, for him to then become our boss, it's a great twist, and it also kind of sets up for maybe running into the third series. I mean, there's a plant within the anti-corruption team, so it's got legs, that storyline.
It was brilliant to have Craig back. Brilliant. He's, you know, we was living in these flats this time round, and Craig lived next door to me, and we'd sort of meet up some nights and we'd just all be in one flat and we'd just run lines and run scenes, and you know, I like sort of being prepared, and we all like to be prepared, and we want to do so well for the show because we love it, but we all get on really, really well. You know, we're genuine friends outside of work, so getting Craig back and Neil, you know, wasn't enough, but for the short time that we had him, you know, it was just like, it was, you know, like having the family back together.
Hey, Mark. Nice evening for it. I haven't had anywhere near enough time on this time round. You know, a couple of nice scenes, good strong scenes, but only a couple of scenes, and I was jealous as all hell that everybody was going to be back and having a great time. But the return of Neil Morrissey, who was so conspicuous in Series 1 through his use of a cane, we introduced him through the cane. Big close-up, car pulls up, car door opens, out comes the bottom of the cane. All right. All right. None of the brass dare challenge him about his condition, because he's obviously took an injury a while back, a genuine injury, but never got over it on the QT, but he obviously did. I've got him over a barrel, so it just sets it totally up for me to be back next time with this information. He's bound to try to kill me again.
So, why missing persons?
Well, it's challenging detective work. Plus, when you do find them, it's massively rewarding emotionally.
When you find them.
With Series 2, we brought back Douglas McKinnon, who finished off Series 1, and that was great continuity because the actors were familiar with him, and he was obviously familiar with where the characters had ended up at the end of that first series. So it was a really good fit that with all the challenges of a new series, having to film in a new location and time having passed, that there was someone who was very familiar with the inside of the show.
It was fantastic having Douglas because he'd done the first series and he knew exactly what the show was, and so there was no question about him knowing what he wanted.
Douglas, we already knew, was very assured with all the action stuff, and clearly Daniel was very good at working with actors.
I just want to pick up the line, "You didn't get this from me."
There was a confidence that when we needed to deliver those 15-page interview scenes that Daniel would be able to do those as well.
Daniel and I had conversations about style and about everything, and he's trying to do what I tried to do in the last series, which try and make it a seamless thing. And Daniel said to me, the difference between this show and other shows is that it's one complete story. So it's not like you're doing a couple of episodes of something and you can just focus in on your own ones. We've kind of got half the series each, so we have to integrate.
My approach was to honour what had been established and set up in the first part of it, and in the first series. It's a very distinct style, but it is a style I have worked in before, using long lenses in a kind of handheld feel, being very observational, being very reactive, following the characters, bouncing between them during dialogue. It's a style I really like, so I was happy to embrace that.
You deny an affair with Lindsay Denton?
I do.
There were also some very lengthy interrogation scenes. I mean, I had a 17-page interrogation scene in one of my episodes. So it's kind of finding ways to keep that as dynamic as possible, as dynamic as the action sequences. Because I think one of the key things about a thriller is just not to let the tension drop, at any time.
The action sequences are really important to the tension of the show, and what we're really aiming for in the action sequences is to kind of create a sense of jeopardy to begin with, but then also be very authentic in our portrayal of the violence, that we want to show people being fearful of what's going to happen to them, and then we want to be quite vivid with the consequences. We want to show the fact that people don't just get up and walk away.
The incident where Lindsay returns to the station after the ambush, herself injured with the neck brace, and her colleagues apparently sympathetic, and then literally turning on her. It's that institutional culture where a group of people feel that someone, at the very least, has been incredibly negligent in their duty, and the result of that is not just that somebody's lost a contract; they've lost their lives. It's the high stakes of being in the police.
No firearms, no backup. Should be you were burying, you stupid bitch.
It was pretty horrible. But then again, it wasn't a toilet; it was in a studio. My head was in a washing bowl full of water. I was putting my own head into the water and doing that, and so it's all controlled circumstances. But it should be shocking. I mean, it should be shocking. It should be awful to watch.
This is not for you. All you need to do is say.
It's for me.
One of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that the audience felt that Jessica's character was going to be a character for the entire series, and that they would enjoy the shock along with us. And I just wanted the audience to feel what I felt when I read the script, the absolute amazement that she was gone and she'd fallen out the blooming window, and it's just like, no, that can't be right, but she was gone, there was no bags underneath for her to catch her or anything, So what I wanted to do in directing it was just make the audience feel that amazement that this character, who certainly in the UK is very well known, she's the lead in the most popular series around, so to kill her off in the end of episode 1 was fantastic, and she just embraced it and loved the idea of it as well. And of course for Jessica, who's a brilliant actress as well, it was a joy for her to play something that was so dark compared to the simple and wonderful joys of Call the Midwife.
I really did not see the twist for Jess's character going out the hospital window. It was proper, even reading it like a wow moment, because they set it up like it's going to be a proper relationship, you know, and a bit fiery kind of thing, and it blew my mind when it happened.
It's always seemed very odd to me when sometimes shows stop for a stunt, you know, and everything goes, oh, here's a big stunt coming up, and you've got a way of shooting that is very very obvious and literal, and people get very excited. So I guess what I've tried to do, for better or worse, is make her death feel like it's just part of any old shot, and yet it's a huge thing that happens.
You've been talking to AC-12!
So many things happened to Lindsay, physically and mentally. It's more unusual, I suppose, for a girl to get the stunty stuff to do, just because of the nature of things. So that's all been great, and it's with my lovely stunt lady called Steph, who did lots for me on Ashes to Ashes and Identity and other things. So I'm very comfortable with her. She got me into my harness, and she's a great double for me.
Prison van crash was a great challenge. I think it was cleverly scripted so that we experienced the crash with Lindsay's character, who's locked inside the van. I mean, she doesn't know what's happening outside. And the advantage of that was that we were able to construct the interior of a prison van in the studio and put it on a gimbal rig so that we could turn it around and, you know, kind of create the sensation of the whole thing spinning over. It also meant that we had a lot more control. We weren't going to be dependent on actually rolling a prison van for real in some remote country road.
I look slightly odd because I've got on an entire harness which starts here and goes all the way down my body, and I don't know if you can see all of that there, and it goes right underneath and up the back. So yeah, so I'm slightly sort of sat in an awkward way. It's like a huge corset, which basically holds me onto the back of the van. As it turns round, it's held onto a contraption which I hang from.
1777, take 2.
Keely's on a harness with straps on, tied on, and then on certain cues she undoes the seatbelt and falls through to give the impression that she's just about to fall onto the gate. They swap me in, and I do it without the harness, undo the seatbelt, fall onto the gate, and then on a cue the gate then falls open and I go through onto that. So between us, we're making the sequence look really great.
Come on, Donut! They've cut a hole, I think, out of the side of the van, and the camera will be sort of falling down as though I've undone my seatbelt, which I will have done, which is quite difficult with handcuffs on because you can't. And then I fall down onto the floor out of the cage. So Steph's done the really horrid bit of actually doing the fall, but I'm just doing the drop.
Action. And on the doors, 3, 2, 1, action. Cut. Right, all right. Very good.
How are you feeling off the bat?
Boiling hot, and just gives you an immediate headache. Just the force of it. Sort of, so I drop down like that, which won't be attractive, but so it'll be something like that by the end.
We've got this really peculiar contrast in the show, and it's one of the great challenges of Line of Duty is that you've got things like the ambush and George's death that are really high concept-y sort of filmic things where everything's going 100 miles an hour and it's like Die Hard if we've got it right. And then you've suddenly got these very, very carefully sort of mannered studio pieces almost, where it's all about looks and glances and tiny little movements and a look here, a look there.
You drove them straight into that ambush, didn't you?
To do with very subtle shifts in procedure, to do with kind of, and then big corners turned because people have underestimated people, and So the real human things that I think people get excited about, same things that, you know, they get excited about in a good play. You know, it's the revelations.
Your cult history makes for very interesting reading. Significant people at significant times.
I remember sitting through it, the read-through, and we read it, and I just looked at Martin just as if to say, wow, I don't even know what to say. Because how is that even possible? You know, that's like trying to do a mini play in the middle of doing a shoot. And we did it, and we did smash it. And it's not that it's like we smashed it and we're brilliant, it's just we all really knuckled down. Myself and Mark Bonner, who played Dryden, who was just astonishing in that scene, you know, he was on it as well.
She gets your phone records, DC Fleming. Superintendent Hastings, she gets his financial records. D.S. Arnott, she followed you and took compromising photos. Did you see her?
You know, you've got to respect it. Jed sat there and wrote it for God knows how many hours. All we, you know, as actors need to do really is learn our scripts, understand our characters, stand in front of the camera. You know, I mean, there's a lot to it, but ultimately is just deliver your lines with as much conviction and heart and yeah, give the performance that the script deserves.
I hereby inform you that the Senior Investigating Officer, Superintendent Hastings, will be submitting your case file to the Crown Prosecutor for the purpose of seeking authority to charge you with the following offences: murder, conspiracy to murder, perverting the course of justice, sexual activity with a child.
Some of the police speak, we have to say, it isn't easy. And for some reason I find it easier in an English accent though, because I can feel like a smart arse for some reason when I do it. There's a lot, and I think with the characters being more, me and Vicky's characters being sort of shoved to the forefront a lot more, we've taken on a lot more this year, but I mean, it's a bit daunting at times, but you're chuffed to bits that they trust you with you.
I'm presenting the suspect with photographs entered in evidence. Evidence number H86734-A to C-E to K. We go in and it's all this kind of technical jargon and, you know, please refer to document 8 and, you know, this is a transcript from a previous interview and you kind of just go, we have got all the evidence you could possibly want and we just keep throwing it to him. Dryden, the way he plays it is just beautiful because he's kind of emotional and then he tries to pull on the heartstrings and at the end he just explodes. And me and Martin, it's not even in the script, but we just ended up gathering all our stuff and just walking out of the room.
I love shooting the whole opening. The whole opening was just a treat to make because it's you know, really the resources that we could put into it to make the whole ambush work were pretty near feature film sort of levels. We took a lot of time getting that right.
Think about it, yeah?
The sequence I most enjoyed writing was the sequence at the beginning of episode 5, which was when Keely's character, Lindsay, was captured and had to figure out how to overcome her aggressors. I thought that was quite an interesting challenge for a writer where you've got very limited resources for the character to use, the character's on her own, and also you don't really know what her capacity for violence is. But we had seeded something in earlier where we'd shown that she was capable of being physical with people, so it didn't come out of the blue.
Film is such a realistic style, it is incredibly shocking. And when I was working with Henry, who plays Jeremy Cole, we had to waterboard Lindsay Denton, and he was saying, God, this is really hard to do. And it's like, we can't be like that, otherwise it's just you've just got to be mean, really, in order to get the answers that you need.
My scenes with Sasha, who plays Prasad, was such a laugh. He's such a genuinely funny, lovely guy and a brilliant actor, and he's so just horrid as Prasad and frightening, and then we just sat and laughed, and so that was a very nice part of the job.
I really like the scene where Lindsay Denton turns the tables on Prasad. I mean, you know at that stage that Lindsay Denton is no goody two-shoes. We put in a couple of temporary sound effects of bones being crushed, which just, you could, you know, when we were having kind of like rough cut screenings, you could just see people tensing up at the sound of it.
there was one bit which everyone laughs about is Donal, the stunt guy, in order to make it look like the car had hit me, we had to use a shopping trolley. You know, so I'm really in the moment, and everyone's laughing because you're just seeing Donal ramming a shopping trolley. So really, it wasn't the car that broke my legs. It was, I think it was a shopping trolley from Tesco's covered in green screen. But yeah, I think there was one take we did actually where they actually did push the car into my legs, and they specifically said to me, if you move out of position, the car will, you know. Obviously, when you're in the moment, my leg moved, and the car did hit my leg, and you'll see in the tape there is a genuine scream in agony, like, ah, God, ah. It's real though, so yeah, it should work. Adds to the drama.
Who are you two to judge me? You don't know me.
You always think in a cop show somebody has to die or get shot or blown up or something to make it a mad ending, but it's not what the show's about.
It's a sort of bittersweet kind of thing, you know, because it's sad, because it's just this life gone, wasted, sort of over, you know, by the time she get out of prison. There'll be no children, there'll be no career, there'll be nothing.
Programs like this make everybody far more aware of the systems that we live under, and I think that's what's been so great about this, is that sort of almost scientific deconstruction of how things happen. So it's just been great, and I certainly am much more aware of when I read a newspaper and go, oh yeah, you know, it makes me a lot more aware of what's going on.
Certainly all of the AC-12 investigators are keen to come back and do a third series, and Jed and I have already had discussions about what the focus might be, what the target might be, where it might be set. All of those things are already in play, and it will just be a question of whether the audience decide they want more, and then whether the BBC push the button on that.